Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Tomlin drops bold comments on Steelers' Justin Fields. The Pittsburgh Steelers have no shortage of questions to answer after a confounding end to the 2024 season. A 5-game losing streak has left a sour taste in everyone's mouth and only added to the uncertainty under center. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin gave quarterback Justin Fields the green light to start the season after Russell Wilson's leg injury, but turned to Russell Wilson after a 4-2 start. Initially, it worked. Wilson won 6 of his first 7 starts, the Steelers won 10 of their first 13, and Tomlin looked like a genius. Then it all fell apart. As both Wilson and Fields prepare to hit free agency, Pittsburgh is left to reckon with whether its late-season slide is a one-way ticket out for the former. Tomlin's bold Fields comments headline where he stands in the wake of an embarrassing 28-14 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. "I think he took them," Tomlin said, regarding Fields' steps toward starting. "I thought the way he handled his professional circumstance was impressive. I thought he brought an urgency to his day-to-day work regardless of his role. It isn't necessarily clear if that means starting with the Steelers or not. But a pivot to Fields flies in the face of the Steelers' actions down the stretch." As the ship was sinking, Pittsburgh was content to let Wilson lead the offense downhill. A brief Fields injury complicated that decision, but the Steelers weren't eager to let him play in the playoff route either. There's every chance Tomlin is merely praising a player on his way out of the building with bold remarks. Fields, by all accounts, was dutiful in his quarterbacking responsibilities on and off the field. "I thought the way he conducted himself makes that a legitimate thought or idea at this juncture," Tomlin said. Fields' season ended with career-best marks in completion percentage, 65.8, passer rating, 93.3, and interception percentage, 0.6. The Steelers got a right-tail outcome after 3 bad years with the Chicago Bears, but clearly didn't see enough to crown him as the long-term starter. Wilson's struggles don't change that. While both sides seem interested in a reunion of sorts, Tomlin's comments wouldn't pencil in Fields as the only starting option, even if his 2024 counterpart isn't the other part of the pairing. Steelers' Mike Tomlin is slowly transforming into polarizing former head coach. The Pittsburgh Steelers' wild card performance against the Baltimore Ravens was embarrassing for coaches, players, and the fan base. But the sting of disappointment doesn't begin and end with a lone postseason loss. This was one of many playoff failures writing a new story for head coach Mike Tomlin, and it isn't a pretty one. I'm sure you've heard by now that, with the playoff loss to the Ravens, the Steelers continued their 8-year drought without a single playoff win. But did you realize that this team has just 3 postseason wins over the past 14 seasons? From the height of Ben Roethlisberger's career until now, the Steelers managed to muster up playoff wins against just 3 opponents from 2011 to 2024. This sorry display of postseason success looks even worse when you see it displayed on a graphic like the one below. Adding context here only fuels the burning rage Steelers fans are feeling. In Pittsburgh's 2015 playoff game against Cincinnati, the Bengals had essentially wrapped up a win and were chewing time off the clock before Ryan Shazier forced a fumble to give Pittsburgh a chance. It also took a boneheaded penalty from Bengals linebacker Vontaze Burfict for the Steelers to find themselves in a position to win this game. Mind you, this contest didn't even come against quarterback Andy Dalton. Rather, it was backup QB A.J. McCarron who nearly got the job done against the Steelers in the playoffs. Following the 2016 regular season, the Steelers had their best playoff run over the past 14 years. However, their first win of the postseason came against Dolphins backup quarterback Matt Moore, who Bud Dupree knocked out of the game, before going to Kansas City to narrowly defeat Alex Smith and the Chiefs in an 18-16 outing. That's it. These were the only 3 playoff games Mike Tomlin has won since the 2010 postseason. Mike Tomlin will always be known as a Super Bowl winning head coach. But that Super Bowl victory against the Arizona Cardinals felt like a lifetime ago, and for many of the young generation of Steelers fans, it literally was. Since the Steelers' last deep playoff run that resulted in a loss to the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, Pittsburgh has found virtually no success in the postseason. This has caused us to draw comparisons between Tomlin and polarizing former NFL head coach Marty Schottenheimer. Schottenheimer wasn't a bad coach by any stretch. In the first half of his head coaching with the Browns and Chiefs, Schottenheimer had an excellent record of 231-145, which equated to a win rate of 61.44%. For the first 14 seasons as a head coach, Schottenheimer never had a losing record. But in the second half of his coaching career, things became stale. Schottenheimer remained a highly respected NFL head coach, but his utter lack of postseason success didn't sit well with fans. Tomlin has a Super Bowl win, something Schottenheimer does not, but over the past 14 years of his tenure, the Steelers' head coach has numbers that are remarkably similar to a former head coach who was known only for his regular season success. Tomlin's previous 14 years included 9 postseason appearances, 12 total playoff games, and 3 victories. Meanwhile, Schottenheimer's final 14 seasons as an NFL head coach included 8 playoff appearances, 11 total playoff games, and 3 wins. We know Tomlin is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, thanks to the success he found early in his career. But at this point, we have a 14-year sample of recent play that suggests fans should have no confidence that Tomlin will be the coach to lead the Pittsburgh Steelers to postseason success. Pittsburgh Steelers pegged as one of the favorites for Bengals superstar wide receiver. As the Pittsburgh Steelers look to the offseason, wide receiver remains among their top needs, and it could be addressed with a splash in free agency. The top free agent wide receiver right now would be wide receiver T. Higgins, who the Cincinnati Bengals have yet to extend. According to new odds released by the outlet BetOhio, the Steelers are 6th in the next team odds for Higgins. Overwhelmingly, the odds favor Higgins returning to Cincinnati, whether that be on the franchise tag or a long-term deal. It gives the Steelers a 3.8% chance of landing Higgins. That is not great, considering Higgins is favored to head back to the Bengals 60% of the time according to the odds, but it makes sense. Higgins, quarterback Joe Burrow, and fellow wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase have continued to state their desires to play long-term together with the Bengals, but it would be up to ownership to make it happen. Higgins and Chase both need extensions, and that would be a major influx of cash at those spots just to keep the team together. However, that trio is undeniably the lifeblood of the Bengals offense, and so it makes sense. Either way, if Higgins does hit the open market, expect the Steelers to be a team that is right in the middle of the sweepstakes as they try to lure another superstar away from a division rival, much like they did Patrick Queen a year ago. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of T. Higgins? Leave your opinion in the comments.